Welcome everyone to a deeper dive into the topic of solubility. And we'll be doing this by looking at solutions, specifically two classifications of solutions, a saturated solution and an unsaturated solution. When we looked at solubility in the lecture, we dealt with the topic in a very basic way. Does the substance, we call that the solute, dissolve in the solvent? For us, that was water. If it does dissolve, we call the substance soluble. If it didn't, we called it insoluble. As you can guess, that's a really black and white way of looking at solubility. So let's take a deeper dive. Each soluble substance actually has a limit on its solubility. That is the amount in which actually dissolves. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's take salt. Salt, in this case sodium chloride, actually has a maximum solubility in room temperature of about 357 grams of salt in water. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look. Here I have a liter of water at room temperature, and I also have about 300 grams of salt. I want you to note that that is actually less than the maximum solubility or the solubility limit. Remember, that was 357. So let's add the salt and see what happens. Pouring the salt in, I'm going to stir with my high-powered stirring rod, which is a kitchen spoon. Okay. Let's keep stirring. And what is happening here is the salt, we know this is soluble, is going into solution. That is, it's dissolving. So going into solution is another term here, another fancy way of saying it's being dissolved. Okay, let's keep stirring. It can take a while. It's an awful lot of salt. And you may be able to notice, I'm seeing it here, that it's actually kind of clearing up a little bit. And if we're patient and we keep going, still looking a little cloudy. it all eventually goes into solution. It's all dissolved. Okay, we can't see any more solid. This liquid is now considered a solution. It is a homogeneous mixture of the solute, that's the salt, and the solvent, that's the water. But we can classify it even further. All the salt has dissolved, okay? But it is possible, because we haven't reached that maximum limit, we could actually add more salt and dissolve it. So this solution has not reached its maximum salt holding capacity. We call it unsaturated. We could actually add more and dissolve more. So this is an unsaturated solution. Okay, it's just a fancy way of saying this solution could hold more salt. Okay, so what happens if we add some more salt? This amount of salt will take it actually right up to its solubility limit. So let's add that salt. Okay, and we stir, and it's going to go into solution, okay, but it's at its maximum limit when it finally dissolves. Does it have a name? Of course it has a name. This is chemistry. We have a name for everything, okay? We call this now a saturated solution. Well, what does that mean? It's just a fancy way of saying that this solution cannot hold any more salt. It's at its salt holding capacity. It's important to note here that this 357 gram limit, this solubility limit, only applies to sodium chloride and only at room temperature. Okay, so each different substance, if you had potassium chloride, it has a different number associated with its solubility limit. So, okay, it's saturated, but I have more salt. What would happen if I add more salt to this saturated solution? What would happen physically? What would you see at the bottom or maybe inside? What would happen to the concentration? Concentration is a new word for you. It simply means the amount of the sodium chloride, in this case, that's in the solution. What would happen to the concentration? I'm adding more salt. Would the concentration go up? Would it go down? Would it stay the same? And why? Well, you'll be doing a little simulation. That's the second link you have in the printout that I sent you. PHET is a free simulation for chemistry and physics, a lot of other things. You'll be running a PHET simulation to explore these two scenarios. Remember, one is physically what happens within the solution that you could see. Two is what happens to the concentration that's in this solution, okay? But instead of working with sodium chloride, you'll be working with cobalt-2 chloride. You'll be using that as the solute instead of the sodium chloride. When you do your simulation, be sure to choose solid. You'll have a choice of solid and liquid. And be sure in the drop-down menu to choose cobalt-2 chloride. Also be sure on the side, there's this little concentration meter. It's got a little sensor, virtual sensor. You can move it right across the solution, so you'll be able to actually virtually see the concentration as it changes. So be sure to move that meter over the solution so that you can see that change. Okay? Then you'll be able to be able to answer those two questions. What happens physically? What happens with the concentration? And that will help you with your post-assessment. Thank you.